This course, Platform Technologies, is going to be covering a variety of topics uh, through which we will be able to identify and understand um, the, the concept of when we say it is a platform, a computing platform. What are the various things that come to make such a computing platform? So that is the main question that we will be looking to answer through this course. So the first question is to sort of define ourselves what we are talking about here is to define what is a platform. So when we say a platform, what we are essentially meaning is, from a computing point of view, it is the combination of the hardware systems that we have, the software systems and applications that we have, and the various possibilities of connecting through networks. And all these things together we will identify as a platform. So that is the very sort of basic definition that we will have. And it could be that these things don't have to come from the same place. So that is, we will be able to create a platform, or we will be able to have a platform that is created or brought together using these components from different places. So you may be able to have a particular hardware platform, hardware architecture, and have a particular set of software running on that hardware, and possibly connecting them through certain different networking capabilities to make a platform. So you can have a server manufactured by a particular vendor, you can have a set of operating systems and software from various other vendors, and possibly networking solutions from different technologies and vendors. And we can put all these things together to make what we can normally identify as a platform. So such platforms will be sort of the basis of any sort of implementation or any sort of technology that we will be building. So platforms, or like a combination of these tools together, will be what we will be used to do or serve other technologies. For example, if we are running an online teaching service, that online teaching service will rely on such a platform. So for example, if we are currently engaging through a Zoom meeting, sort of a classroom environment, here what we are having is, we have a hardware platform where certain servers exist. Then there are certain software that is running on top of those servers, and then those servers are connected to the internet through certain networking capabilities. So this combination creates a platform on which this particular service for online teaching can run on. So that is the basic interaction between a platform and the different services that we will be using will be like. So before going into sort of further understanding what are these three sort of components, so the three components are hardware, software, and networking. So we will briefly look at each of those in today's lesson. So in today's lesson will be largely an introduction into the course, and we'll be looking at sort of basic concepts around that. And in the coming weeks, we'll be going into more advanced topics. So when we think about sort of hardware side of computing, we can sort of identify a number of generations of computing. this is sort of not from a history sort of perspective, but sort of from a technological perspective as well. We have had a number of generations through which the computing has changed significantly. So starting from sort of large sort of machines that were made up using sort of vacuum tubes, and programming and data storage were in the form of, say, punch cards and so on, through to sort of the transistor era and sort of mainframe computers, then having sort of time sharing computers, and then sort of personal computing, and then sort of mobile computing era. So we have moved through a number of eras just from the hardware perspective. So here the hardware has sort of shrunk a lot, so the size of the devices have come down, the speed of the devices have gone up, and also a lot of capabilities in addition, like sort of storage capabilities and other input output capabilities, or other devices that you can connect to, networking capabilities. So all these things have also improved over time. So just from only from a hardware perspective itself, we have a significant number of things have changed over the years. So say for example, when we had sort of the earlier sort of batch systems, like sort of earlier mainframes and things like that, they were made up of a particular hardware. So but in a sort of a platform perspective in that particular time, maybe networking was not a key component at sort of the earlier stages of computing. So at the earlier stages of computing, when we say platforms were largely hardware and certain software running on top of them. And even in the case of software, in a lot of these systems, they were sort of single software systems. So they were not multi-programming computers, they were not running multiple software at the same time, but they were having only one program run one after the other. So one of the possibilities that can happen is, say, if you want to run a number of programs, what you may do is you may load certain programs that you have, then that program can run in the system and produce some output, and then output can be saved back again. And if you want to do or use another different program, we may have to use a separate program there as well. So that is sort of the very earliest stages of computing, and that is sort of the type of programming and type, the way the hardware and software would have interacted in those type of times. But then the capabilities of the hardware improved in computers, and as the capabilities of this hardware improved, we were also able to do what is called multi-programming. So here what we did was, we were able to have not just a single program running at a particular point in time, we were able to have a number of these programs running one after the other, and with the help of an operating system, we are normally able to run and combine all these things together and sort of share resources such as memory and so on. So these are this is what we call as multi-programming. So this is in many ways sort of how we do computing these days as well. So we have computers as a single computing hardware that will be able to run a number of programs. Even for example, in this case, in this case, how we are sort of connecting to this class, you may be using a number of software in the computer that you are using. I am using a number of software to do the class. I have a PowerPoint open, I have a Zoom call open, and so on. You may be having your Zoom meeting application and maybe a number of other applications as well. Then when we think about sort of the modern computers or the computers that we use currently, what we have here is, say, this is the type of computers that you would be potentially using. So we may have like sort of the basic components such as CPUs, memories, and so on, but then also quite a number of devices that are connecting things from the outside world, and all of these things will be managed through a operating system. So from a hardware point of view, we will also be closely associated with a software there. So the operating system will be that type of a software that is going to interact with all the existing hardware of these computers, and it is the one that is going to manage all of these things. So in that sense, from a platform perspective, when we think about computers and computing from a platform perspective, after thinking of these various hardware possibilities, so like all these different hardware that we can have in these systems, in addition to this hardware, the other thing that we can have is what is the sort of the basic software that we will have is, we will be interested in a particular platform would be the operating system that we are using. In addition to the specific sort of application software and so on, we will be more interested in the operating system from a platform perspective. And when we think about hardware, what we are going to see is a significant variation in the type of hardware that we can use. So what we can have is sort of typical computing hardware that we may be using, or like sort of specialized hardware sometimes could be there, like say for example if you have a video game console or something like that, it may have a particular hardware architecture compared to a general purpose computing architecture. Then there could be certain computers that we will come to identify as RISC computers or reduced instruction set architecture computers. So these are computers that have certain capabilities of low power consumption and being more suitable for mobile applications and so on. So things could be like that. And then also in terms of like say what are based on the various capabilities or like how much they can do, we maybe identify things like mid-range, mainframe, and supercomputers. So these are computers that may have much higher capabilities compared to sort of standard computers that we may be familiar with. So with all that, again, the thing to remember is it is not going to be a single type of hardware that we'll be working with or we'll be concerned about. Even when we say we are concerned about, say we are building a platform to do a certain type of a web service, again in that sense we may have to choose a server hardware. Then within server hardware, then again we may be able to have a lot of variations in terms of possible hardware architectures. So again, those are a number of things that we will have to think about when we are thinking about hardware from a platform perspective. Then from a software perspective in platforms, the main software that we will be thinking about is operating systems. So operating systems are going to be the type of software, or it is the type of software that is going to stay in between the hardware that exists in a computer. So we may have a set of hardware in a particular computer, and we may have a set of programs running on that particular hardware of that computer. In between these two is where we are going to have the operating system. So the operating system is going to be the middle layer that is going to link or connect the hardware and the software layer. So a question for you all is, what do you know about operating system? Like, tell me some examples of operating systems. What you can do is you can either unmute and speak, or maybe you can even like send a message on chat. That is fine as well, if that is easier for you. Yes, so those are some operating systems that we will be using. Then, if those are some of the operating systems, and those are like, say, so the operating systems that we know identified, there are Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and so on. So those type of operating systems you will be familiar with, and even operating systems on your mobile phones like Android or iOS. So those are also operating systems. So in all these operating systems, why do we need to have them? So that is also a question that we need to answer. So operating systems are there, and there are few variations of operating systems, but still there is a need for us to use them. So what is a need that why we are using these operating systems, and why can't we just have, say, whatever the user programs that we have, why can't we just run these user programs and without an operating system? So one of the main reasons why we are going to have these operating systems is the way that we are using these computers. So what do we mean by that is, say, when we are running running a computer, when we are using a computer, in sort of the current type of computers that we use, we are running multiple programs. To start with, we are running multiple programs. So from a software perspective, we are having multiple software running at the same time. So from a software perspective, there can be a number of software that is running. Then from a hardware perspective also, we could have a number of different hardware components in the computer. So for example, we can have a printer, we can have a scanner, we can have, say, a web camera. So like a number of components that we can have from a hardware perspective. From a software perspective also, we can have, say, a browser, we can have a media player, we can have a word processing software. So likewise, we can have a number of software and hardware that are being used at the same time in the same computer. So when we do that, what we are going to have is, say, if we are only running a single software in a computer, and it is only going to do a single thing with a limited set of hardware, then we can run it easily just by that software. But because now we are having a number of software components running, and each of them may want to use a variety of hardware components, we need to manage them effectively. So the capability to manage different software running at the same time, and also these different software using different hardware at the same time, is one of the main reasons why we would want to use an operating system. So the operating system will function as effectively a manager for all the resources that are there in the computer. So it will take all the different softwares and take all the different hardware components and manage them across in terms of who needs what and when they can use a particular component and so on. It will be managed by the operating system. So that is one of the main functionalities that will be there for a particular operating system. And one of the reasons why we would use an operating system, or why we would need an operating system, and especially in sort of modern computers, is based on the complexity of these computers. Say, let's take for example, so currently there are about 9 people participating in this class. All of us will be participating from a number of different computers. Some may be from mobile computers, some may be from laptops or desktop computers. We may be joining from a number of these different computers. So when we do that, what we would have is, say, my computer would have a set of hardware capabilities and hardware components, and your computer may have a very different hardware component. So my computer may have a particular processor, your one may have a very different processor. My one have a certain amount of memory, yours may be having different amount of memory. But in all these cases, we may still want to run the same program. We may still want to use Microsoft PowerPoint, for example, or Zoom meeting in this instance. So all of us want to use the same software in all these hardware platforms. So if we think like each and every software developer has to think about all these different hardware components, the software that they have to do will be huge, because they have to think about each hardware and they have to write code to manage that each hardware. So that is where we are having the operating system, and what the operating system is doing is, it is simplifying the hardware platform and it is providing a simplified interface for applications to use. So instead of writing a software code to run that can run on all the different hardware platforms, the software developer can just write the code to run on a particular operating system, and the operating system will manage the specifics related to each hardware. So that is how we would use these operating systems to enable software developers, application developers, to make their job easier and take in all the complexities into the operating system. So what we would essentially have is, we would have, say, the hardware that we would use. So all the hardware, so the various hardware that we would use, and the reason why we would identify that as an ugly interface is because, say, I may have a particular, we will just think about computer screens. So because, say, currently when you are using this application, you have to see the visuals on the screen. So I may be having a particular screen, then you may be having a slightly different screen, and someone else may have a different screen, and so on. So each and every person may use different sort of laptop screens or desktop monitors and so on, will be significantly different from one to the other. Their resolution may be differ and all these things. But at the end of the day, all of them need to produce a similar output. So from a hardware perspective, all of them are going to be very, very different. So this is going to function in one way and the other one will function differently and so on. So all of them will have to be managed differently. You have to signal them differently, you have to give input to them differently and so on. So then what we would have is, we can combine all these things together into a single component by the operating system, and then we will call it the screen. And all the application software has to do is, they have to write their instruction to match the instruction of this common component. So the operating system will give you this beautiful interface of a common component, and you only need to worry about that, and the underlying interface of the hardware complexities will be managed by the operating system. And as we sort of previously identified, one of the other things that an operating system will do is function as a resource manager. So when we say it functions as a resource manager, what we would have is, say, we are going to manage its resources between multiple software and mapping them to multiple hardware, and all of these things can be used at the same time. And we may have to manage them in a number of ways. So the first way could be managing by time. So if we think about it, say if we are running two different programs at the same time and both of them need to do some processing, any sort of processing that we do in a computer platform will have to happen in its CPU. Because both of these applications need to do this processing, both of them will use the CPU, both of them will need to use the CPU. So the operating system will have to manage and give time to both of these, one after the other. So one application will get few milliseconds, and then the other one will get few milliseconds, and then they will alternate like that. So at the end of the day, both of those applications will be able to do their computations and calculations as the time progresses. So that is dividing the access to the resources by time. So you are saying you can use at this point in time, you can use another time, and you can use another time. So we are sharing the resources by splitting them by time. Then some resources we may have to split them by space. Say for example, if we have a memory, in our hardware, in our computer, and if we want to give the memory to different programs, we'll have to split that memory and say this is for program 1, this is for program 2, this is for program 3, and this is for program 4. So likewise we will have to divide and assign. So here we are dividing them by space. Or sometimes, say for example, another scenario could be if two softwares want to print a page, we have to manage that resource, because we cannot let the printer printing pages by two software at the same time, because they cannot. They have to finish printing one page from a software before they can at least give another software the option to print, because you cannot halfway through a page switch to a different software. So again, depending on the hardware that we are using and depending on the type of activity that we are doing, we may have to choose and do different types of resource managing. So that will depend on the resource and the use case, how we are managing that resources. Then with operating systems, one of the other things that we can identify is various sort of concepts. We will be looking at some of these in the coming weeks, but some of these things that you will be already familiar as well. Say, for example, when we take a typical operating system, what we will have is it will have to manage processes. So processes are basically the instance of software that you will use in a computer. So if you are running PowerPoint, that will be a process. If you are running Zoom meeting, that will be a process. If you are running a browser, that will be another process. So all these different processes will be managed accordingly. So the operating system will have to have that concept. That is processes which are like programs that we run, an instance of a program that we are running. Then we may have to manage the memory that is available in the computer as well. Depending on the amount of memory that we may have to divide them across the computer, across different applications that may want to use that. Then with operating systems, we are familiar with files. So that is something that you would use on a regular basis, that you will be able to store information in units of information called files. So when you go into a computer, you will be able to see that is the file that is a lecture note, that is a file that is a video, and you will be able to differentiate and use them much easily than it is not like a long set of bits that are stored randomly. It is like it is grouped together into a unit of information called files. So that is also something that is normally done by the operating system. Then, as we said, operating systems are also going to be responsible for managing input-output devices. So for example, if a printer is connected, operating system is going to manage how the communication through printer is going to happen. If the network communication device or network card or something is connected, again the operating system will decide how the communication through that network component can happen. So that is managing input-output devices. Then the other thing an operating system will do is protection. So a typical way protection can happen in operating system is basing, say for example, having logins and usernames and passwords and so on, and it can control access to who can read what files and what files are protected. Sometimes even encryption and so on can be done at an operating system level. And in addition to all these things, what we will have is what is called a shell. So in the case of a Windows computer, you may have what is called a command prompt or a PowerShell, or in the case of Linux, you may have shell like a bash, that type of a command shell application, where you can give command line instruction for the operating system to do certain tasks. We'll be looking at each of these topics in more detail in the coming weeks, like not only from an operating system perspective, but also how each of these can impact our understanding of how a larger platform can be created and used. So those are some of the things that we will be discussing in those lectures. And one of the other things that we have to think about, and that is of importance when we are thinking about various computing platforms, is there are a number of new developments that are happening, and the developments in the hardware perspective are also impacting the type of software that we may have to use. So for example, things like having larger memories or larger storage disks, or certain encryption, hardware level encryption and so on, or ability to use virtual memories and so on. So these are again some of the concepts that we will be coming back to in the coming weeks. So before continuing further in the lecture, do you have any questions about what we have covered so far about operating systems briefly? And are there any things not clear, or are there any things that you want to be clarified? again, as I said, like if you have anything, you can let me know through chat as well. And if there are any sort of doubts, it would be good that you ask them at the same time, so I can immediately clarify. Say, for example, if I am talking about something and if you are not clear or if you are unsure about something, just put a question on the chat. Then I can look at the chat and see, okay, that is a question that we can answer, so I can discuss that after that. So that would be much useful, not only for you, for others as well, if clarifying these doubts as we have. Okay, so let's continue on. So one of the other things that we will, so one of the sort of, as things develop, one of the things that we have come to is we are having computers that are having these what is called multi-threaded and multi-core chips. So what are these? These are computers that are not only having a single processor, or rather not only doing a single processing at the same time. These are computers that are able to process a number of things in parallel at the same time. So what we had earlier was we will have a CPU, a single CPU that we will be using to do processing. So any instruction has to go to that particular CPU and results have to come out. But now when we have, say, multi-core processors, what we can do is we can send a number of instructions at the same time in parallel, and all these outputs can also be produced in parallel. So what that means is the operating systems that we have and we use will also have to work accordingly, and also the application software we have can also take advantage of these things. So for example, if we have a single processor, all the instructions, say we have, say, 40 instructions, it has to go one after the other 40 times to go through all the instructions. If you have 4 cores and all these instructions are able to run in parallel, then we can shorten the time by 4 times, because now we can run them in parallel and finish that in 10 sort of cycles. So I mean, it is not that simple in a practical point of view, but the main thing to remember is it is going to be significantly different how we are using this system. So that is also something that we have to think about when we are thinking about sort of modern computers. They are not going to be sort of the simpler computers, or the view of a simple computer with, say, one processor, one memory, and some input output devices. It is easier to sort of understand basic computing like that, but sort of the computers that we will be practically using in sort of building these larger platforms may not always be that simple, and they may have much more complex sort of underlying architectures and structures. So when we think about computers, we want to have programs running on these computers. So the program itself is going to run in the CPU. So the CPU is where we are going to run the program. And most of the CPUs that we would use these days are fairly faster. So they are faster CPUs. So if a CPU is running a program faster, we need to bring in information to the CPU at the same faster speed. So we need to somehow bring in information at a faster speed. But in normal circumstances, whatever the program and data that we have stored, we would normally store them in what is called the secondary storage, or the hard drives of the computer. So these could be, say, whatever the hard disk of a computer is where we would normally store. Compared to the CPU, hard drives are normally fairly slower devices. The speed of the devices are fairly slow in this case. So to match that, what we would have is, we would have some intermediate situation where we can pass this information along. So even though this is slower, CPU can get the information much faster, because the intermediate, the middle path, is faster. So traditionally this middle part is the main memory, or normally what we call as RAM. But based on the technologies that we have and based on the advancement of technologies that we have, what we currently have is very faster CPUs and comparatively slower these secondary memories. So even having sort of these faster main memories is not enough. That's why we will have what is called a memory hierarchy. So what we have here is a number of different levels of memories. We can actually say ignore the magnetic tape layer because that is not something that we are no longer using a lot. But other than that, say a magnetic disk or even a SSD is like the main storage that we will have. That will be somewhat slower. Then we can have, say, a main memory or the RAM that is much faster. Then beyond that, we can also have, say, a cache memory. So a cache memory is again even faster memory that is normally located closer to the CPU or sometimes even inside the CPU chip itself, because a memory chip or the RAM is normally stored as a separate hardware outside the chip, outside the CPU. Cache can be closer or even inside the CPU. Then additionally, we can even have what is called register locations that are actually inside the CPU itself, where the actual processing can happen by reading from registers and so on. So is it like you're having some audio issues? Okay, I think it could be sort of slightly dropping time to time. I mean, like my internet connection is also not that great at times, so we will see. But if things are going somewhat bad, also like one of the other options is like the lectures are getting recorded, and you will be if things are that bad, you will be able to access it from there as well. So anyway, so with this variety or like different types of memories, what we will have is, as we go above this hierarchy, the speed is going to increase. Because the speed is going to increase, we are going to have much faster and faster memory devices as we go further up and up. On the other hand, the cost is also going to increase, the price is also going to increase. So what we would have is, in this situation, we may not be able to have a lot of faster registers because they are more expensive. So we'll have a very small amount of very fast registers, a little bit more of the little bit slower cache memory, maybe even a bit more of the main memory, and much more of the hard drive. So even if you think about your computer, you may have, say, 1 terabyte or 500 GB of hard drive. You may use like 4 GB of RAM, and your cache memory could be few megabytes, and the registers could be actually few bytes. So it is going to significantly change as a hierarchy of devices, where we have much faster things, small amount, and slower memory technologies of larger amounts. So that is basically how we would organize memory in our sort of computers. Again, we will be sort of coming back to memory in some fashion in the coming weeks as well. Then one of the other things, or like another sort of associated with memories, is like one of the types of memories is we may have different type of disks. Again, from a platform perspective, and when we are especially thinking about sort of large computing platforms, this is one of the sort of key type of things that we have to think about, because there may be, depending on the application, a requirement for large amount of data storage. So if we think about a large sort of data server, if you are running an application server, there may be a need, depending on the type of application, to store a lot of user information. So in that case, in these type of computing devices, we may have hardware sort of storage devices that are much larger than our typical sort of personal computing environments. Say, in a personal computer that is used by like a few users, we may be only having 1 terabyte of storage. But in a larger server that is used for a particular platform, for a particular service, we may have to have a large number of storages because they may generate a lot of information to store. Say for example, if they are generating video content or uploading images and so on, we may need to have large amount of storage capacity or capability. So that is also something that we would need. And when we have this large amount of information stored, then we also need to have some aspect of managing this information effectively. So even not enough to store a lot of information, we need to manage, say, what are the files, how those files are organized, who can access these files, how access to files are controlled between users. So these type of information management will also become important from a larger platform perspective. Then the other thing that we will have to think about when we are building these platforms is, again, depending on the type of application that we are using, depending on the type of use case that we are having, we may have to think about what are the different sort of hardware components, controllers, devices that we may want to attach. Say, for a certain application, we may only need storage devices. In certain application, we may need additional network communication. And sometimes we may need additional specialized components, like if we are running a video server, we may need to have some additional graphics processing capabilities there. So they may need to be attached as additional devices. So all these things may be necessary depending on type of input-output devices that we have. And one of the things that we can also think about is, when we have a large number of input-output happening, that is also going to impact how we are processing in this computer. If we are having a lot of input-output information coming in and out of this computer, then again that is going to impact the actual processing of information as well, because either information is coming in and going at different speeds, it is going to stop to listen to some external input that is being received and so on. So input-output will also play a significant part in terms of how these systems can function. Again, we will come back to discuss some of these capabilities later on. Then, when we think about the modern sort of computers that we have, what we will end up with is this type of an architecture where we are having various different components, various different computing components, hardware components connected through different buses or different sort of technologies. Say for example, we can connect certain devices through USB. Then we can have Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet as sort of a networking capability. Then we can have sort of PCIe slots to attach additional expansion devices. We can have different memory capabilities and so on. Then we can have multiple cores of processors. And then all of these things will have to somehow communicate with each other. So information has to go from one to the other, because unless this information can be communicated with each other, it will not be practical for them to be used. So because like say, if we connect something through the USB, say if we have connected a printer through USB and we have connected an external hard disk also through USB, unless these things can be loaded onto the computer and then printed back on the printer, it will not be used. So then we need to have an information flow pathway. So that information flow pathways are what we would identify as buses in computing. We would have a number of different technologies to do that, and different technologies will have, say, different speeds, different capabilities. Say, for example, even if we take USB, for example, a USB 2 bus is much slower than a USB 3 bus. The capabilities are different as well. So we were discussing buses. So with buses, what we identify here is that there could be a number of different ways these different hardware components can be connected into a computer. So like things like we may connect even a similar type of a device may be connected through a number of different ways. Say we can take a hard drive, for example. We may connect a hard drive through a SATA interface, SATA bus. We may connect it through a USB as well. So depending on the applications, we may still use different technologies and different buses to connect these hardware components. So the buses are going to be the underlying sort of connectivity part of the hardware that we use, and that also will influence how the software part is being utilized. So even within operating systems, we will be able to identify a variety of operating systems based on these two sort of differentiations. So either based on the specific hardware capabilities that we have, it may be different, or it may be different depending on the software capabilities that we are thinking about. Say, for example, if we are thinking about a mainframe or a server or that type of a computer, even handheld computers, they may be specifically different because of their hardware differences. Then we may have, say, real-time computing, certain type of embedded computing and so on, may also differ because of the software that we are using in these computers. So depending on these things, the operating system choices that we will have from a platform perspective will differ. In certain platforms, depending on the hardware that we are choosing and the combination of software that we are using, we may have to use or choose a particular type of operating system. But in sort of reality or sort of in a practical sense, from this course perspective, we will be largely limited to sort of the main sort of common operating systems such as sort of Windows, Linux, and that type of a thing. We may not go into much more detail into sort of specialized operating system. And the other thing is, most of the current sort of these operating systems, sort of current variants of Linux and to some extent Windows, are capable of being used as a number of these use cases. So we don't anymore have sort of significant variation or separation between these different operating systems. They are only separated by certain capabilities that we choose to have in them. So for example, we may use same sort of Linux operating system as a server operating system, or as a personal computer operating system, or sometimes even as a embedded or a handheld device operating system. So it is going to be the same operating system but being used in different applications here. In addition to sort of having these computers, hardware, software and things together and all, what we would be interested more is how all these things are put together in a sort of an organizational setting, organizational environment, and we could identify that as sort of the infrastructure of the platform. So the IT infrastructure of a particular platform, and that has also changed as things have changed in anything in computing. So when hardware has changed, when software changed, the infrastructure has also changed over time. So what we have here is, say, from the earlier computers where networking was not a thing, Then, for example, from the 80s onwards, we had sort of network computers where we had sort of client server model of working, sort of computers connected to sort of multiple other computers and so on. So from that point, where we are now is we are in an environment where we are having what is called sort of enterprise connectivity, enterprise network connections. So we have larger organizations connected through sort of larger networks, and say what we may have is say different branches connected individually, and then all of them are interconnected, and then they may again be connected to the internet further on. So that type of sort of interconnected sort of enterprise organizational infrastructure, that is one common thing. And then the other sort of thing that is happening sort of lately is what we are having these days is more about cloud computing and mobile computing and so on. So what we will do is towards the latter part of the course, we may go into a bit more discussion about how these sort of distributed computing, cloud computing, and so on work, and sort of what are the different sort of considerations when we are building infrastructure and systems using such sort of computing use cases. So when we think about IT infrastructure, there are sort of a number of components that we can identify in this IT infrastructure, in addition to the basic components that we have identified so far as say the operating system and the hardware and so on. In addition to those, we can also identify a number of other infrastructure components as well. So we have the hardware platforms, we have the operating system platforms. So say when we think about hardware platforms, we can think about the variety of types of hardware that we can have, and also the hardware can come from variety of architectures and manufacturers. So say for example, we can have different chip manufacturers doing different processors and graphic processors and so on, and then different other organizations or manufacturers can manufacture the actual computing devices. If for example, a company may use Intel chips to manufacture, say for example, Dell may use an Intel chip to manufacture a server. So that is how we may sort of the hardware components and the things that we use in this infrastructure will be set up as. Then when we think about operating systems, again the reality is like we are limited to sort of largely these two operating systems, and then Mac OS and Android and so on in sort of certain applications. But from a sort of the numbers may differ, so this may differ and change year to year, but largely this is how it could be. But then other than that, one of the other main component is going to be how we are going to manage the data and store the data. So thinking about databases, data storage capabilities, and even network-based data storages. So we can have certain databases where we store information in our platforms. We can have physical storage devices, hard drives attached to those hardware, or sometimes they are connected through the network where we can communicate and get the data access through that. Then we will have various networking capabilities. So from telecommunication service providers, different networking capabilities of operating systems, and then also different networking hardware components like switches and routers, and how we are interconnecting them in an enterprise network. So these are also some of the things that we could have from a networking perspective in a platform infrastructure. Then from an internet perspective, again, there could be some hardware capability. So for example, when internet will also be built on top of hardware, so that hardware could be there. You could access certain services. There could be service providers that are there from the internet, sort of like you can get sort of Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud, or that type of services are possible. Then you may also use certain development tools to actually build systems, build applications that can be used along with sort of these internet platforms. So those are also some of the things that we would have when we think of a larger infrastructure of computing platforms. Then other than these, one of the other possibility, one of the other sort of component, this is not sort of from a tool or an application kind of thing, but more of a service kind of thing. What we would have is, even when we are building these platforms for larger organizations, one of the other things that we will have to think about is who is going to build these things and who is going to manage these things. So there we would use what is called consulting services or systems integration services. So you may be able to buy, say, a server from HP, routers and switches from Cisco, operating system from Windows, and certain application software from, say, another vendor like Oracle or somewhere. So you have all these things, but you need to somehow put all these things together to run it in an organizational environment as a platform. To do that, to build that infrastructure to run that platform, we may also have other service providers coming in and helping out. So these are sort of system integration software people. Sometimes people will help you to run legacy software, sort of older software to run in newer hardware. So these are some of the service providers that we may need to have as well. So in addition to sort of in-house staff, we may also use external service providers. So that is basically it about sort of building an infrastructure. So when we say building an infrastructure, we are thinking about all these various sort of providers and components and so on, and how all those things can be put together to build an infrastructure. So what we have covered so far today is basically an introduction to this course. So the type of things that we will be covering in the coming weeks. So that is largely what we need to cover today as sort of the main content. What we will have is this is sort of the plan that we have for the rest of the module, the set of topics that we'll be covering throughout in the rest of the module. So that is I'll share this with you as well later on. And these are my contact details. And I also found that there is an LMS course for this particular module, but at this point I don't have access to that. But I will be able to ask someone through someone to post any information necessary there, or even possibly using an additional sort of like a Google Classroom or something outside if the LMS is not usable there. So that is mainly the things that I wanted to cover for the day. Are there any questions that you have regarding, say, the module outline or what we discussed so far today, and all the topics that we are going to discuss later on? And regarding the technical issues and difficulties that we had today, I will look into those, and hopefully in the coming weeks we will be able to do something about that. I'll try to address that. I mean, like, it could be my internet connection or something like that. We'll see how we can manage that. So are there any questions before we conclude for the day? I will share these slides as well. So I'm okay. So I mean, like, if there are no particular questions, that's okay. And if there are anything that you want to discuss with me, you can contact me as well. You can email me, or WhatsApp is okay as well. I mean, like, if you want something quickly responded, send me a WhatsApp text. I will get back to you. Unless otherwise necessary. And also, like, if you want to talk to me, send me a message first, and then depending, because like I may be at lectures and other things, or send me a text, and then we can organize a time to talk if you have any doubts, to clarify it that way. And if you have anything to discuss in detail, you can send me an email, so that's also fine. Is there anything else? If nothing, then we can conclude for the day, and meet next time, next week, same time. And if there's anything in the meantime, I will find a way to share that information with you. All right, so thank you for joining. See you next time. Bye.